Mm.
Welcome to the Medical Report Podcast, where we bring health to your ears. Our podcast hopes to help the community learn more about health, but we do have a disclaimer that all medical advice shared here is not an adequate means to diagnose or treat you. We recommend that you seek medical attention from your healthcare provider if you want more guidance on your health. Or if you'd like an assessment by one of us here on the panel, you can reach out through our social media pages. If anyone in the audience has any questions for us individually or about our topic today, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat, and we'll answer it in our Q&A segment later in the show. If you're watching this after our live show ends, feel free to ask your questions in the comments too. Also, be sure to like and share this video. We want to feel the love. Now, let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
It's your girl, Anita, and there's Zinzele.
Hey.
Today, we're missing Olu, but we're going to be troopers and go on without him.
Yeah, we'll make it through somehow.
Sending him all our love because he is running at 5K today. Best of luck to him. So how's your week been, Zinzele?
It's been good. It's been good. Long week at work, but ended good.
Okay, that's good. I just know this week is the end. Today's the last day of HBCU week. I have to represent my HBCU. So,
well, I'm in solidarity, even though I just happen to wear the same color.
Which is kind of great. We're coordinating today, right? We're ready. So, another special shout out today to our producer, Chris Hendricks.
Yes.
He won't come up forward on the show. Chris, you wanna pop in?
Pop in is
hey Chris,
what's your name?
Debut of our producer, the man that makes the magic happen behind the scenes.
What up? How y'all doing?
Happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it.
Happy birthday.
All love, appreciate it. Bye.
All right. So today we're talking about cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a group of disorders that can affect your ability to move and maintain your balance and posture. It's the most common motor disability in childhood. Cerebral palsy is caused by abnormal brain development or damage to the developing brain that affects the ability to control muscles. The symptoms of cerebral palsy vary from person to person. There are 3 types depending on which area of the brain is affected. The first type is spastic cerebral palsy, which can affect about 80% of people with cerebral palsy. Those with spastic CP have stiff muscles, and as a result, their movement can be different than usual. Spastic CP can affect just your legs, one side of your body, or all 4 limbs. The second type is dyskinetic CP. Those with dyskinetic CP have problems with controlling the movement in their extremities, and it makes it difficult for them to sit and walk. Movements can be slow, rapid, or jerky, or at times their face and tongue can be affected, making it difficult to swallow, talk, or suck. These symptoms can vary from day to day or throughout the day. And the third type is ataxic CP. These patients will have problems with balance and coordination, and they may be unsteady when they walk. They tend to have difficulty with quick movements or movements that need control, like writing. There can also be mixes of all 3 of these types. So some people may have both at one time. Generally speaking, all patients with CP have problems to some degree with movement and posture. Those with severe CP may require special equipment to assist them with walking, or they may not be able to walk at all. CP does not get worse over time, but the exact symptoms can change over a person's lifetime. Common conditions that can occur among patients with CP are seizures, problems with vision, hearing, or speech. Changes in their spine, like the development of scoliosis, or joint contractures. This is where the joints become frozen in a particular position from lack of movement. There is no cure for CP, but treatment with a multidisciplinary team can improve quality of life for those with CP. So today we have the honor of having a guest with us that was diagnosed with CP at birth. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you the hottest disabled entrepreneur with a background in music and legal, Mr. Terry Moorer.
Hey,
Terry.
thank you for having me. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
We are so glad to have you, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I've heard, so with CP in general, what were the expectations of those with CP when you were born?
Well, it's kind of weird because I was born in 1964, and there wasn't really any expectation as opposed to most of the community, the medical community was like, literally, we can't do anything for them. I remember they told my parents to put me in a nursing home when I was a baby because they pretty much expectation was, his life expectancy is going to be short. He's not going to be able to do anything, and so compared to now, it's a lot
Right.
better. But back in the '60s, it was like there's nothing we can do for him.
Wow, that is crazy. I can't, like, how do you just discount someone like that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, you're disabled. Well, that's that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Have you ever had to take any medications at any point to help with symptoms that you've experienced because of CP?
Fortunately, I haven't had to take any medications, but I did go through several operations. I also had braces when I was young. I had a walker, had crutches. So, but I didn't have to take any medication though.
So you had more of a physical reaction to it as opposed to physical symptoms.
Yeah, because with my CP, thankfully it only really affects my lower limbs. Upper body, I'm fine and everything like that. And pretty much with that, I've been able to move around. It's just that when I was a little kid, it was definitely very, what's the word, limited.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been very successful in your career in the music industry. What words of wisdom do you have to share with people to help them push through their physical limitations when building their career?
Well, in regards to my music career, I really believe that I could do it. I just could not understand. I knew that there were people in the music industry that were doing what I wanted to do, whether it was behind the scenes or in front of the scenes. And I just could not understand for the life of me why I couldn't do it also because I would say to myself, well, they get up and get dressed just like I get dressed.
Yeah.
They brush their teeth like I brush my teeth. I mean, they
That's
can't be
right.
that much smarter than me. So I know, if they do it, I know I can
Right.
do it. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your profession with music.
Background in music started in '86, living in New York City. And when I first started my career, I actually started working at a recording studio in Manhattan. It was a great experience. I worked for free. I was assistant manager cleaning out the studio and answering the phones, but it gave me the opportunity to work with Roy Ayers, Yoko Ono, and Brenda K. Starr, who discovered Mariah Carey. And then after that, I got my first paying job in the music industry working at Billboard magazine. Did that for about a year. And then after that, I started working for an independent record label called First Priority Music out of Brooklyn. They was distributed by Atlantic Records. But their claim to fame, well, two claims to fame was the first female on that label was actually MC Light. And then also, too, they had an artist group called Audio 2, which had a huge record called Top Billin'. But working with First Priority Music opened up the doors for me to work with everybody from Queen Latifah, Jada Pinkett, Will Smith, and a bunch of other people.
Wow, that's so cool. I would have had some star-studded shock. I'm sorry if I've seen those people. I'd be like, "Oh, hey, Will."
Right. Right.
Yeah, I did throwing out on a couple of people that I met in person, so absolutely.
Yeah.
So who's the coolest that you feel that you met so far?
Wow, it's so many. Will Smith is definitely very cool. Jada, Latifah is like a younger sister to me.
Yeah.
Very cool. Light is very cool. I really, the majority of people are still very down to earth. Very down to earth.
Yeah.
They always seem like they have really cool personalities. I just always wonder because it's like you never really know the person, you know. But yeah, that's cool.
Tupac was very down to earth.
Oh,
Tupac and
cool. You
Aaliyah.
did Tupac?
Yeah,
I kind of would have expected that one.
yeah. Tupac and Aaliyah was very cool.
That's good. That's good. So now you have working more so with background in legal, right?
Mhm.
So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, one of the things I know as a person with disability with cerebral palsy is that when my mom was raising me and my dad was raising me in New York, I don't believe they had a lot of resources to find out what my legal rights was when it dealt with dealing with the hospitals and dealing with the doctors and even dealing with schools. So I partnered with a company called Legal Shield. It's been around for about 50 years. And pretty much what it is just gives everyday people access to some of the top law firms for less than about 25 bucks a month. And what's cool is not only do we deal with families, but we also deal with small business owners who, don't want to pay a high retainer, but still have the same access as if they were paying a high retainer for a law firm.
Okay.
So what are examples of maybe things that people have used the Legal Shield for if they've gotten it for themselves personally for their child with disability?
Great question. For a parent that has a disabled child, we have 24/7 access. So you literally can pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning and call your attorney. If, for example, you get pulled over, you have a disabled child in the back seat, and the police are asking you to get out of the car, and you're like, well, why
That
am I
happened
getting out of
here.
the car? Oh, shit, yeah. Why am I getting out of the car? Let me get my attorney on the phone. We've got a lot of success with that. And then also, too, being able to get your will done because if you have a disabled child that is dependent on you, and God forbid it happens to you or both parents, then that child unfortunately will go into the system until the judge and the county or the city state, I should say, can determine who that child is going to go to. So it's very important to get your will done. And Legal Shield will actually do your will for free by becoming a member.
And what type of will is that?
It'll be your living will, your medical power of attorney, and your regular will. So you get 3 documents, all for the price of nothing, just for being a member.
So a living will, living power of attorney, and a
Living
regular
will, medical power of attorney, as well as the basic will that most people get. That says, this is what I want to leave. This is how I want my affairs to go.
Okay.
Wow.
That is good information.
So can you tell us a bit about the differences between those so everybody understands that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a regular will is something more so of, hey, if something happens to me, this is what I want my belongings to go to. And one of the biggest misconceptions with people when it comes to getting a will is people say, well, I don't really have anything to leave. I don't have anything of value. Would you be surprised how many people start fighting over the mattresses? My father always tells me.
Right? That's when the ugly comes out of people.
Yeah,
so those pennies add up. Those pennies add up.
Definitely. Somebody wants the back scratcher that I've got. But my father would always tell me, you want to break up a family, let somebody die.
Yes.
Yes. So people will fight over everything. So will basically says down to the T, I'm leaving this, my baseball hats for my kids. I'm leaving my electronics for my daughters, and it breaks it down. A medical power of attorney really gives the person a medical power of attorney to basically act on your behalf if you can't speak for yourself if you're in a hospital. A living will is basically, hey, this is what I want and don't want while I'm in the hospital.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so especially with COVID happening, you got somebody that says, hey, this is what they want done, this is what they don't want done, and I can act on their behalf. And then they also have a living will that basically speaks on their behalf as well.
So what age are you looking at doing something like this? I heard at 16, but because, as a parent, you can take care of the child all the way up, until whenever, but usually there's something that happens and is it 21? They'll say they're an adult now, so you can't make these decisions, or?
Well, it really depends on that child's capability of can they speak for themselves. But I say to all parents, whether your child is only 2 years old or 30 years old and they're still dependent on you, if they're in a situation where they can't live on their own, then you want to put those paperwork in place so that your final wishes are received.
Our
Because
honor.
the last thing you want to happen is that, God forbid, something happens to that person, and the last person that you wanted your child to go to ends up with that person, that aunt that you couldn't stand, or that brother that you knew wasn't going to take care of them. They just wanted the money that they can
Yeah.
receive every month,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know if this might be a little too specific, but what if you have two parents and they're divorced and special needs? At that, but do you and they disagree on where the child should go? Have you dealt with that?
I haven't dealt with that me per se, because the good thing about what I do is I'm not actually an attorney, but I connect people with law firms around the country. We have sort of like a contract with about 50 major law firms in every state that serves our members. So, for example, I'm in the state of Georgia. The law firm that we use is Deming Parker Hoffman Campbell. They're one of the same law firms that Coca-Cola uses. And we pay that law firm $2 million per month because of all the members that are paying between $25 all the way up to $169. But in respect to your question, is that if you got into a situation where the father says, I want my son to go, if something happens to me, goes to my sister, and the wife has said, no, I want him to go to my brother, I believe at that point it's going to have to go to the court, hopefully before you pass, and let the court decide.
Which is why it's important to get it done early.
Yeah.
There it is.
Because
okay.
Unfortunately, people wait to the last minute because of cost, and I understand a lot of people say, well, I can't afford it, because the average will is anywhere from $800 and up. And that's one of the reasons why Legal Shield does it for free, to say, we don't want you to have any excuse to do it.
I don't know, man. If you can afford that car payment, I think you can afford that one will. Just saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'd really be surprised what happens when a person dies without a will.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen not so great situations and instances where people have not had a will. I mean, working in the healthcare industry in general, like eventually you have a patient that passes or that's put on hospice and they can't make decisions for themselves anymore. Yeah. And then the family comes in, and then their long lost sister, who's their next of kin, comes in, that's not seen them in 20 plus years, but they feel that because I'm the next of kin, I make all the decisions for this patient, though they know nothing about that patient anymore. And it's like, legally, they are the next of kin, but they don't have any documentation that says, I don't want my long lost sister not to tell the doctor what to do with my health.
Yeah. So, usually in my situation, it's usually where one child is making all the medical decisions, but the other one's caring for him.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have one of my Legal Shield members. Her and her sister were actually at their father's bedside in the hospital, and the father told them exactly what he wanted. He didn't have a will in place. He told them, this is exactly what I want. This is how I want it to go. Unfortunately, when he passed, one of the sisters were like, okay, what did he say? No. And they started arguing to the point where they didn't speak for years.
Oh my goodness.
They just started speaking like within the last few years, but it's important to get it in writing.
Yeah. Wow. That's not appropriate. Not fun. All right. So audience, now is the time for your questions. Again, we are not able to diagnose or treat you, but here on the podcast, but we're open to your general questions. So if you have anything, let us know. Let's see if we got anything.
One says, having a medical power of attorney is such a great topic. Glad it was brought up. I've personally seen the ugly side of how people can get when someone passes. Having all your ducks in a row helps prevent family confusion later. Tessa.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly what I've seen and experienced with these patients. It's unfortunate, but people get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you.
All right. Looks like Chris has a question.
I have heard that CP is caused by lack of oxygen during birth. Is that true?
Not always.
I don't know. I don't know if that was my case though. Yeah, I think German measles was what affected my birth most part. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your experience was that it was your mom had German measles and then you were born.
Yeah, definitely complicated the birth. Yeah.
Yeah. So lack of oxygen could be a cause, but it's a very small number of cases with people that have cerebral palsy. And abnormal development of the brain can occur before birth, during birth, or within a month after the birth. So it's usually within the first years of the child's life that people will see whether or not they have signs of cerebral palsy. And it can be associated with an infection from the mom or head injury that can occur after birth as well. So not always the direct cause, but
yeah. As we were talking earlier, Terry, my nephew has cerebral palsy, and he received his. He was born 6 months premature, and he was born with it. And a lot of his presented. He had the difficulty with movement with his arms and legs, more the clumsy type of, movements that got better over the years. And I know one of his foot was turned inward and had to be corrected a little bit. But other also, as well as some psychiatric issues as well, having to function with that. So, but
yeah, when I was born, I literally stood on my toes and my knees were bent. And
okay.
my posture and my balance was terrible. One of the things that I did do to sort of help with the balance was I actually studied martial arts. I studied drunken monkey style, which helped me to cross over my legs. And then when I went to Shriners Hospital, they actually lengthened my heel cord to make my feet flat. And then they lengthened my hamstring so my legs would be straight up. So if I'm standing, you can't actually see that I have cerebral palsy. If I'm sitting, it's only when I'm walking.
Mm-hmm. Well, Terry's just regular Superman.
Right? Exactly. Lucius has a question. What is the best way to support CP organizations and the cause in general? That's a good question. I'm not quite sure on that one. I mean, I would just, I guess, research organizations for cerebral palsy and reach out to them is probably the best way to do it. I know a lot of times organizations will have donations that they accept toward research. And so that'd probably be the best route to take.
Yeah, UCP is one of the largest organizations, United Cerebral Palsy, and they have chapters all over the country. So they probably have a social media page as well.
Yeah, that's a good one to look at.
Yeah. Could it occur or develop later in life?
Usually we only really see it early in life, like in childhood. So the first few years of life, like usually less than 1 is when you'll start developing symptoms. Any other questions? Lucius said, all right. All right then, Lucius. Thank you for your question.
Terry, was where did you have any challenges as far as, like I was mentioning before, with my nephew, socially making friends as a teen and as an adult, and especially with the dating scene with him?
You know, funny, I was just having this conversation this morning, but my self-esteem in elementary was bad because I think when you're disabled, and I believe everybody goes through this. I went through a why me?
Yeah.
Maybe my parents was bad in a former life, and I'm getting punished for it or something. I went through all that stage of, what happened? How did this happen? And I probably rebelled a lot in junior high school, middle school, and when I grew up in Queens, New York, because I was definitely a juvenile delinquent. I hung out with the wrong crowd. I was doing all the wrong things.
Yeah.
But luckily, the women, and I'm talking about junior high school, and college, didn't really care. Even to this day, it's been a blessing that women, they don't really see the disability. I mean, for the most part,
Yeah.
majority of
Yeah.
them don't see the disability. And I think now it has a lot to do because of all the things that I've accomplished. You know, I jump out of airplanes. I'm on the red carpet. So I think they're able to look past the disability as
Yeah.
someone gets stuff done.
Yeah. Well, we always say as women, boy, men got confidence. We sure see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And that's
Thank you.
exactly what I was
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
say. It's definitely, I
That's
feel like
what it
it's
is.
confidence.
It's the confidence.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
definitely the confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris says, what are some symptoms of cerebral palsy? Will the doctors detect it by default, or is it something you have to look out for as a parent for the possibility to develop? So the symptoms that we spoke about earlier, so things that you may see with your child are the way that they move, or you may see delay in their development of movement. So maybe they're not, they say that some babies, if you pick them up, their head may be pushed back where they, instead of supporting themselves, I mean, most babies, they can't support their heads initially, but we're talking like maybe 6 to 7 months down the line where they're actually able to do that. Their posture is different when you're holding them. Sometimes they aren't able to roll over on the, like, meeting those developmental milestones.
Mm-hmm.
Walking and crawling may be something that's delayed, and, you know, movement of their limbs in general. There may be some, like we said, some jerking movements or slow movements that you're noticing that aren't typical of other infants that you're seeing.
Yeah, with that in mind, I work as a medical speech pathologist, and we work on swallowing disorders and we work on feeding. So those movements during, you know, when they're in early childhood, you can get a lot of assistance with the speech pathologist to be able to help with your feeding.
Yeah, because we did talk about that sometimes the patients may have that difficulty with swallowing or talking even.
Yeah. So
When I was a baby, I couldn't sit up. I would roll over if he sat me up.
mm-hmm. Now, see, this would be good for, oh, where's Olu? He could talk about all the physical therapists.
I know, because he's our physical therapist.
We missed our other guest.
Where's Olu when you
The trifecta is gone.
Yeah, it's all good though. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope you tune in with us again in 2 weeks and connect with us on our business and our businesses on social media. If you're watching after our live session has ended, you can still leave your questions in the chat and we'll get back to you. If you have any suggestions for a topic that you would like us to cover, send us a DM.
If you want to connect with Terry, let us know.
Yes, Terry_Moorer on Instagram. All right. Have a good one, guys.
All right. Thanks for coming out, Terry. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.